Welcome to the Scent of Beauty. My name is Susan, and this video is titled It Could Be Worse, Superlative to What? Part 4. We have been examining the concept of it could be worse based on the superlative bad, worse, and worst. And we know it could be worse given implication that we already bypassed bad, we're in the level of worse, and we're finding some form of solace in it could be worse, but the situation is already concerning. We know that we have a variety of ways of coming to conclusion. We have messengers. And so when that statement, it could be worse, is made, that is a belief system. But does the body agree? And so that's what we've been discussing. Visceral feelings, feelings that are not thought out. And I needed a visceral being to help me to convey why I wanted us to examine that statement. It could be worse, because it deserves a probing eye. I needed an anomalous being in nature, anomalous like bizarre, exceptional, consistently inconsistent. Our mind and body could have two experience, one with an anomaly, that's the body, something different that occurs from what we state consciously. And our bodies have reactions that is under the radar of consciousness, and that's what I want to discuss. But if it's not visible, if it's not tangible, if it's not easily accessible, I needed an extreme version of visceral feelings, visceral in nature, a deviation from a common type, a deviation from the common rule, arrangement, form. When we make that statement, it's a form of a proclamation. It could be worse. But in a union, in a relationship, one person cannot decide for the couple. It loses the entire input. I found the Earth-Sun relationship, that dynamic duo, helps us to understand the complexity of two systems operating for the greater good. One is not geared to sensibility as we refer to that word. One is more cycles, sequential, a visceral partner. If you don't ask, it doesn't tell. It's not forthcoming as its counterpart. So I want to talk about the mind-body experience or the inexperience. I didn't say mind/body. It's only united when both pathways are unblocked and reach the central processor. One cannot decide for the other. It could be worse. The mind cannot decide that for the body unless it actually gets the message and takes the input of the body. How can one say it could be worse when there is civil unrest within the body itself? Unable to sleep, tossing and turning, pacing. Instead of balls of nerve, Why don't we say our cells? I would say unsettling cells throughout the body that counter the statement. There are two entities that are coupled. The body helps to synthesize our entire being. Our internal world benefits from its revolutionary practices. I love that there is two messengers, that our body expresses itself. We just have to learn what it's saying and appreciate it. We are indebted to the sun as the great revolutionary habit that it has. Its rotation, it benefits our life form. It contributes within. It's more than just the light that we see. And I personally believe it's not that we have a lack of interest in the sun. It's more ignorance, the lack of information. With more information, we make informed decisions. At that time, we make a choice. Either we're in or we're out. In the other videos, I discussed the visceral being of our bodies, reaction, action without consciousness, feelings without governing thoughts. Where do they go? Where do those feelings go? The blanket statement of it could be worse without the input of the body. As I said, bad, worst, worse. The body did not process bad. It is not able to process worse. We weren't created to be in those states. It wasn't created to digest some of these data, I call it trauma, that it's forced to swallow within itself. If we are physically feeling quote unquote bad or worse, if we are not feeling it, why? Have we negated the messages because we needed to move on? Like the sun and earth relationship. What I've learned from the sun and earth relationship, being inexperienced doesn't change the sun's practice. Whether I acknowledged it or not, it doesn't change it. But in this video, we're gaining a conscience for the superpower, the resourcefulness be in our bodies. That's where the resourcefulness we're going to at least examine and have more consciousness of. The earth and sun's relationship will shine some light on a couple. And when it stems from a coupling, we could be relatively familiar with one partner while the other is more in the background, a lot of feelings being expressed, more unknown energy until we get to know that counterpart. Or I want to change that, until we get to know that mate. So we could take on the role as NASA that has a conscience for the sun. Through observation, they know about visceral being. And it's because of studying on a daily basis. There was an English philosopher, Herbert Spencer, and he said, a living thing is distinguished from a dead thing by the multiplicity of the changes at any moment taking place in it. It could be worse What is the physical contribution to a mental conclusion? Living with the Star is a NASA scientific program that studies those aspects of the connected Sun-Earth system. They've had the Parker Solar Probe. They've had the solar, what is it called? Solar Dynamic Observatory. They've had the Van Allen probe, because they want to get closer and closer to the sun. They want to know about the sun, not just the effects and what we need from the sun. They want to know what's going on inside. I love these guys. They're a special interest group. They've dedicated their lives to go beyond the obvious. They study the magnetic fields. They do target researches. And what I love about them, they have different divisions that are targeting certain areas of the sun. Explorators. And that's what the scent of beauty really is. And this video, it's about exploring ourself, our scent, our being. And it doesn't get old. NASA has been around, I think, since 1958. And they're constantly learning new things. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, we always call it NASA, but that's the name. You know, getting closer to the sun, NASA thought that the probes were out of focus because they kept seeing these variations when a lens is not in tune. And what they found out is the sun, the activity was the vibration and the sound waves of the sun. Who knew? NASA didn't, until they started probing and getting closer. What's our vibration? What is our sound waves? Have we probed within ourselves to even become familiar with that part of our being? Do we try to change the lens of our thought process? It could be worse, trying to adjust self, when in actuality, it's our sound waves, it's our vibration telling us a story, the other contributing factor to our totality. NASA simply saw movement without a thought. Plasma, one of the four states of matter. We could call it at its best state. It's not at the worst state. It's the most energy input. It goes from solid, liquid, gas to plasma, and the atom starts to break apart. And we know atoms are made up of protons and neutrons. And at the core of the sun, there is so much electric charge built up, 50 million degrees in the sun's core. And I don't have the time necessarily to go through all the phases, but at the end it creates photons. And photons is the one that goes on a journey. And that's what I want to talk about. Photons go through zones. Thick layer of plasma. It's called the radiative zone. That's what it's called. The sun is so spirited, just like our bodies. It's just getting to know it. And as I mentioned before, the radiative zone, it's a difficult place and process to go through, but it's not impossible. It's the process within the life-giving process. We see the light every day. But the process to become light, by no means it doesn't seem easy. It has nothing to do with sensibility as it pertains to a conscious thought out process, but it's with intentional purpose. Energy is transmitted. So from that frame of reference, intentional transmitted energy, when we resolve, it could be worse. Superlative to what? Is our energy within our body being transmitted with intentional purpose? Or are we going through random walks? We will go into more details in the next video, part 5. Welcome to the Scent of Beauty. My name is Susan. Thank you.